Listen, I know that the debate around film versus digital formats has grown so much in the internet lately, and there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of videos, articles, and Indian Instagram influencers Lightroom presets packs. Raider! But I do still feel that this area of filmmaking is still in the dark somehow. Let me explain. Most videos or articles online debate on who is better, the old school hipsters who can't let go from their Kodak Vision 3 16mm look, or the new generation of TikTok kids that say iPhones and Sony Alpha cameras can emulate any look today. Bla 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 goo goo gaga. So, let's simplify this topic by explaining the differences between the film and the digital mediums. Let's go. Before the 19th century, people around the world recorded images in many different ways, like drawings, statues, or even toys for kids, believe it or not. But there was a real need for an actual capture device or method for realism purposes. For example, you just graduated from school in the 18th century, so you invited the local artist to draw you and your friends with your graduation shirts and hats. The artist could easily forget one of your friends and the drawing took more than 4 hours. Sucks. So then, a few smart scientists decided to change that. I'm not going to talk specifically about them because this will be its own long video. So let's jump a little bit further. The first experiments with film has started around the 80s of the 19th century, when John Kubert, Hannibal Godwin, and George Eastman found out that celluloid is a way more efficient way to process images rather than using a paper as your film. They used a kinetoscope machine, which was one of the first machines ever to support the illusion of moving images by moving the roll of film from top to bottom in a certain rhythm, or frame rate as we know it today. It wasn't an actual film projector, but it set the way for all future projectors to come. Like this video if you want to see a video about the history of film. The first roll of celluloid that has been produced commercially was Kodak's first 65-feet roll, and from then, everything is history. After we explore the beginning of the film area and what was the world's needs for capturing basically everything, let's discuss what film actually is. Film is any kind of spool-wound paper gelatin, mostly celluloid, that is sensitive to light photons and can preserve and capture them on itself. The basic principle is very similar and easy to understand. The camera that the roll of film is inside rolls it via the frame rate that has been chosen. The light photons hit the lens focuses the light and shapes it, and then send the photons to the film itself. And then the photons are burned onto the film. After that, the film is going through a development process, which is a combination of a very dark room, some chemicals, and some very hipstery labs. And this was basically the only medium for capturing real world all the way back from the 19th century until the late 2000s. And then the Arri Alexa series came out, and the world was never the same. Until the 2000 area, there were no other options than film medium to capture high-end productions like features and TV shows. There was a real need in the world for a more efficient and easier pipeline. Wanted to record a high-end commercial at home? Sucks for you because you don't have the budget for a 16mm film. And then, in May 2010, Arri introduced to the world the Alexa Classic, the world's first digital format camera that can actually be used on film and TV sets. But until then, other than some really unsuccessful cameras from Sony and JVC, nobody on earth ever raised the thought of using a digital format camera for a feature film. The Arri Alexas, all the way back from the Arri Alexa Classic series, and with today's Arri Alexas, the LF series, the ways for capturing media are way easier. The principle is very similar to film videography. The photons that hit the lens pass through it to inside the camera, but instead hitting a roll of gelatin, there is a digital sensor made out of millions of pixels. The sensor captures the photons and passes them as a raw data to the camera processor. It processes the raw data and compresses it in a way that the cinematographer has chosen before. And the variety of processed formats are basically endless. After that, it writes the processed info into the memory card that inside the camera slot. After that, you can just copy the files to your computer, and that's basically it. That's the whole pipeline.
It jumped up a notch.
But if the methods are so similar, what are the advantages of one over another? Let's separate the differences between these two mediums to three parts: character, pipeline, and the effect on the viewers. From the dry perspective, film and digital mediums has very different texture to each. Let's look at one of the best 16mm films, Beast of the Southern Wild. In this film, shot on 16mm Kodak Vision, the timeless and the nostalgic film is very immersed, and you can almost feel like you're seeing a flashback from the past. In film in general, because of the combination of some chemicals, there is grain, which has an unpredictable pattern to it, and it seems very satisfying to the viewer's eyes. It makes us almost feel the nostalgia in the air. It has a lot of halation and dirty texture to it, and each film kind has its own level of grain, halation, color, and its own feel that is unique to it. In digital cameras, the story is completely different. All digital cameras has a very similar guidelines to them. If you would search on YouTube Arri Alexa versus the Red Weapon, you can see that they are almost indistinguishable. Yes, they do use very different color spaces and very different sensors, but believe me, if someone says to me that a certain feature that has been shot on the Red Helium, while the truth is that this feature has been shot on the Alexa ALF, I would believe him 100%. Although I'm a professional colorist, the approach of digital cinema cameras to capture the world as accurately as possible with minimal characteristics . Let's take two movies that are very different from each other and let's compare the differences between them. The Beast of the Southern Wild and Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2. The 16mm film is, like I said, has a very nostalgic and timeless feel to it, like you almost seeing a flashback. And the Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 has a very sci-fi and clinic look to it. Is one better than another? No, there are very different features that achieve very different results from the viewers. If you don't know, there is a brilliant book named The Medium is the Message by Marshall McLuhan. And in this book, he explains why the nature of the medium, the channel through which message is transmitted, is more important than the meaning of the content itself. McLuhan tells us the change of scale or pace or pattern, that a new invention or innovation introduces into human a phrase. If a certain film has been shot on 16mm medium, your brain immediately connects it to a timeless and nostalgic or even romantic feel. It's a subconscious instinct that you can't unfeel. But on the opposite side, when a film like The Joker that has been shot on 65mm digital format camera makes you feel like you're watching through someone's eyes, and you can feel the madness and the pain that the Joker has been put through because of society. If this film has been shot on an actual film, the effect on the viewers wouldn't be nearly as close to the realistic and clinical feel that the Alexa 65 achieves. If you want to see part 2 to this video, which I will explain in it the practicals of film versus digital, like what is the cost for a film crew to rent a 16mm film for 90 days of shooting, or how every production selects the medium that is right to it. Like this video and subscribe to the channel to be one of the first when this video will come out. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.